I'm around here. I said they waiting on me. I'm staring at this phone. I don't know what is going on.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
I thank y'all for being patient with me. I'm here.
Wait, let me get my fangirl together.
You are so sweet.
I am so oh, woo, Jesus. It is such an honor to talk to you. You just do not know.
You so sweet. I normally when I'm trying to get on these things, I said I'm gonna start at 3:50. Make sure I could try to get on here. I couldn't find. I said, girl, let me try to text her. I don't want to call her to throw her off IG. Just it's a hot mess. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you here. I mean, usually I do it on TikTok because it's a lot easier. I don't
Mhm.
like the dynamic of Instagram. I don't like
Instagram,
being on top of you
right,
instead of beside you. But
right.
whatever, I don't care. I get to talk to you. That's all that matters. That's all I care about.
I'm
Oh my
here.
God. Okay, let me get it together. Let me get it together. So, could you please introduce yourself? Tell us the genre you write in, and anything you want us to know before we start the interview.
So I'm Joan Vassar, and normally I write in historical fiction and historical romance. Um, but I mean, I don't know if I'm a particular other than historical fiction. I don't know if I'm a particular genre because I really do be wanting to try it all.
Mm. So, what inspired you to like start writing, and how did the journey to become an author begin?
You know, it starts early. It
Mm.
starts early. I think I remembered liking to write like in third
Mm.
grade, and that's been a long time because I'm in my 50s now. So, um, but even still, liking to write, there is a connection that happens between your hand and
Mm-hmm.
your head. You know, there's
Yeah.
something that happens, and I think writing is something that gets better um, as you get older,
Mm-hmm.
as life experiences happen to you, and you're just kind of like trying to figure out who you are. And I
Yeah.
think what happens is along the way, at least for me, uh, I started seeing images of things and people as I got older, putting them in situations, and life was still happening. I had children and all of those things, and then one day I just said, "I think this is it. I really need to be doing it," and I had to buckle down, and it was not an easy process to start
Mm-hmm.
with because I didn't really understand writing. Um, I just knew I wanted to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was when I buckled down and went through a company that self publishes, and they were coming back with different techniques. I think it was then that I was starting to catch on. Hey, these are the things I need to do, and it just took off from there. But the process is it was slow and steady. I got to tell
Mm-hmm.
you, yeah, it was slow.
So you talked about how you write in historical, which thank God, because I don't. Let me tell you something. I don't read historical romances. It's only been two authors, you and Lisa Rain, have been
Okay.
the two authors that I really was like, I like this.
Yeah, yeah.
I really don't read historical romance because it's just not my thing.
Right.
But when I read your books, oh my God, ma'am, you write history and complex characters so fucking well. It's amazing. So, what drew you to those themes?
I think if I had to if I had to think about what drew me to writing the Black series and writing historically is because I grew up liking historical fiction, and there just was not a lot of that. If when I was growing up, I think there was just Beverly Jenkins, and I think Beverly Jenkins started happening when I was in my late 20s going into my
Mm,
30s. So there are a lot of stories that can be told, and I think there's more to us than slavery. And so wanting to have black heroes,
mhm,
have black love interests,
mhm,
and love stories. And I think from then and now is kind of what made me do it.
mm. So, how do you approach your research when you write your novels? Like, especially when you're writing about these historical periods.
To start with, I stumbled upon that because was only trying to write one historical fiction to start with, and that was black, and I think it took off from there. But what happened is I started doing the research for the period. You're
Mhm,
looking at how people lived, how your people lived.
mhm,
What was the time, what was significant in the time, all of those things, and it just escalated from there. But I can tell you one of the things that happened during my research to write the Black series. I began to realize that I wasn't really educated in this country about being black or about history, period. So
mm,
that was a little disheartening, and I think that's what caused me to continue writing historically.
mm. Can you elaborate on that? Like, you wasn't. Um.
You grow up and you think that you've gotten this education that you could actually speak to, but when I started writing the Black series, there
Mhm.
were a lot of things I didn't know. I didn't know that there was such thing as a 20 nigger rule. So if you're in the middle of the Civil War and you have more than 20 slaves, then you don't have to fight in it.
Wow.
That Lincoln already paid reparations.
So, how was it for you to hear and read these things that they're not teaching us in these books? They're
No.
not teaching us even in documentations that are in like the Library of Congress. So, what? How did it feel reading all that stuff?
I think that's why I ended the Black series. Like when
Mm-hmm.
I talk to people, they keep saying, "Are you going to write another book?" But it's heavy. You end up with all of this knowledge that just frustrates you. And when you look back historically and you look at what's going on today, you realize there's not really a difference. Just the year. So it's a little frustrating. And you know, in writing the Black series and looking at the conditions that people lived in, that our people lived in, I, I'm still trying to, even now, we live in adversity,
Mm-hmm.
and what we're doing is we're still living, loving, working, doing all the same things. And that's what our people have always done. So
Yeah.
you're attempting to tell those stories in the face of adversity because that's what we do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so the question that you asked, to answer that question specifically, it's rough
Mhm.
reading and researching historically and writing, putting characters in those situations.
Mhm.
And so when I got to the fifth book, that's when I was like, yeah, I could go on, but I think I've had enough. It's rough.
Damn. Shit, it's rough me hearing you say that.
It's
Like,
tough. Yeah,
you know,
it's rough.
we enjoy these books because we're like, oh, it's fiction. It may be historical fiction, but it's fiction.
Right,
But hearing and this is why I think it's very important to hear from the author's voices, because a lot of times us as readers, we don't hear your voices. We hear your stories, but not your voices and what goes into making these books.
right,
So it's hearing you do the research and learning, and now I'm going to go back to those stories like and have a different eye and look at it in a
right.
different point of view, because now that I'm talking to you, now it's like, oh, let me go back and read that.
Right. Because one of the things, and I get this question all the time, are you going to write another book in the Black series? But really, there's no rhyme or reason, or there's no significant. This was a rough series to write.
Mm,
And so, and my motto in writing historical fiction is that the people may not be real, but the conditions are.
Mm.
I actually I actually set the characters in real conditions. And so, you know,
Mm.
and then I attempted to move up and write Ignite, but I mean, it was 1925 and we're going through Jim
Yeah.
Crow. So I really didn't move up much. So then I was just disgusted with that, you know? And so you do take a lot of it to heart because it can be tiresome.
Yeah.
It's a lot of research. It's a lot of trying to look at the historical events and putting your characters around those events,
Yeah.
and a lot of the events are not nice. You know, when
Yeah.
I was writing Ignite, that was when I realized that Marcus Garvey had been arrested in Georgia
Hmm.
under under mail fraud. And so so you're going through the motions and you're reading, and it gets kind of it does it some of it breaks your heart. And so you're still trying to tell a great story,
Hmm.
um but you're trying to convey the
Yeah.
conditions and that the conditions are real. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm gonna let you answer this question. She says, "Do you feel that we are currently regressing towards that period in time where our rights will be rescinded?"
um I mean, I think we're there already.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that I think the way that they're handling women's lives and women's health shows that we
Mm.
it's like we're in 1925 rather than
Mm.
2025. So yeah, I think we're there. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: What? Damn, you just blew my mind. Um, how do you ensure that your characters feel authentic and to that time period while remaining relatable to the modern reader?
Say that part again.
I said, how do you ensure that your characters feel are authentic to that period in time that you're writing on, and but remaining relatable to the modern reader?
That's a very good question. And it just has to do with being black and living with older black people who can
Mm.
corroborate the different things. I lived with my grandmother as well as my mother and her siblings. And so, black family, I'm hoping that when you read, that you actually see extensions of your own family. And
Mm.
I think that's how. You take the characters and connect them to now.
Mm.
Also, I think people think that because it's historical, it can't be sexy. I mean,
Who
if
said
people weren't having sex, right? If people weren't having sex, we wouldn't be here.
they was
So,
having more
right,
sex than we were?
okay, there was no TV.
So let me ask you: Do you like to write about well documented historical events or explore like the lesser known events, like you was talking about Marvis Garvey and him getting arrested for mail fraud? You know, do you like the well documented historical events or the lesser known events or stories? And if you do, why? And if you don't, why?
I actually go with whatever fits into the book. So
Mm.
when you're writing historically, you have to be careful. And really, any author does. Because even if you're writing today, you want to write today as it's happening. You
Mm.
know, what you want to write that TikTok closed down. And
Mm.
now all of a sudden we on IG. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You want to actually hit the high notes, but it depends on what the story calls for. So you don't want to tell a high event something that drowns out your story. You want to get the conditions right, and
Mm.
sometimes it's facts that were lesser known, and sometimes it's facts that people think they know that are huge that really are
Mm.
not, right?
Mm.
And like for instance, when I wrote The Fort, I had a gay couple in the fort, and somebody asked me, "Why did you put a gay couple in the fort?" The the fifth book. I said there were gay people all through the book. It wasn't necessary to tell
Mm.
you they were gay. I mean, it is Abraham Lincoln was bisexual. It wasn't necessary to tell you that
Wait,
because that wasn't what the
pause,
story was about.
pause, flag on the play, pause, pause. Wait a goddamn minute. What in the see? Why are you on here blowing my mind? What?
So I mean, we look back, there was a lot of talk about him being in love with his cabinet member, Joshua Sneed, and that he actually broke off his engagement to his wife. But then Sneed ended up marrying someone anyway. And so there was talk about him being bisexual. And when I moved to Georgia, which I don't live in Georgia anymore, but when I first moved there, I think I was there about 2 years, and Georgia did a spread in the Atlanta Constitution of uh, gay public leaders.
Mhm.
He was one.
Damn.
It was a Sunday. It went on for a week, and they named several people. The president before him, James Buchanan. So these were things. So when the person asked me, "Oh, there are gay people in the story. There are LGBTQ people in the story, but this wasn't about them."
Yeah.
So because I didn't say it, didn't mean they weren't there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so. Um, so it's those type of things. I think in book four, I uh have Black turn him over to his captain of the guard. But 2 years after Lincoln was murdered, they wrote a book about him and the captain of the guard. That he was constantly with him whenever his wife was out of town, and they slept together, and people knew it.
Damn. I swear to God. See, this is why you the GOAT. I don't give a fuck what nobody fucking say. This is, if y'all wonder why I fangirl over her, this is why she is the fucking GOAT. Man. Okay. How do you choose the specific time periods or events you write about? Like, is there a particular rhyme or reason to how you write these time periods, or it's just sporadically?
Um, I write the time periods based on the scenes I see in my head. And then usually, if I can get the story down, I can pick a time period that story best fits.
Mm.
So for me, I try to get the characters together. I plan on doing some urban fiction and
What?
writing. I do plan on doing some urban fiction, and I do plan on telling uh, a story of dope selling and all of that. But I plan on taking it back to the 1960s.
Oh shit! Because
So,
in Chicago in 1960, that was El Rukins and Black Panthers, the Black Peace
and you
Stone.
got to keep in mind that I you know you got to keep in mind that you're growing up. I'm coming out of the tail end of the 60s when I was born, but you're seeing the effects of it all through the 70s of people being on methadone,
Mm.
of people of the AIDS epidemic from needle sharing. I mean, heroin was a big deal. So I probably will take us back to the 1960s and attempt to be, and maybe in Donald Going's shadow.
I'm going to beg of you. Please let me be an ARC reader. I beg. Can I please be an ARC reader? Oh my God. Please. I don't if you don't want me to be an ARC reader, let me interview when that book come
I'm
out.
hoping
Oh my
to do
motherfucking
it
God.
soon. Yeah,
Woo!
I'm on a calendar now of things I got to do that I have to get done for Alexandria House and recorded books, and so I'm in the throes of that. But as soon as I can, and I also, because my readers have been patiently waiting for a book two, and unfortunately Francine, those are the things I'm working on this year.
Ma'am,
So
God
yeah.
damn. I look, I respect you so fucking much. Oh my God.
I appreciate
Um,
you.
I'm trying to get my questions right because honestly, you are like blowing my motherfucking mind, and I don't fangirl over a lot of people, but uh, I you okay. You talked about queerness.
Right.
You have several books dealing with queer, and you have one book. Well, several. Queer was in some two books.
And then
Uh,
I have a third book that is in, but it's not about that.
so
Yeah.
you have queer. and then which is male male,
Mhm.
and then you have a poly
Right.
relationship. So how does writing those situations, um how hard was it? How was it for you deviating from what you usually write? And um how do you feel about it?
Um, let me think about this. So when I decided to write LGBTQ, I j- I just want to really tell Black love. I want to tell romance, and I believe that people fall in love regardless of gender. So I wanted to I wanted to approach it as telling a love story in hopes that when you read, you would get away from the thought that it was two men and think about them just being in love and maybe where they're going to go with this. That was my hope. And I wanted to tell stories all over the romance genre,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And everybody doesn't love the same.
Yeah.
People do it different, even if it amounts to the same. And so that was why the poly romance. I grew up in New York City, and during my last year of high school, I was a home attendant, and
Mm-hmm.
I was a home attendant for a woman who was born in 1893. I think when you're 18, 19, 20, you probably can't appreciate that. So she
Mm-hmm.
was 93 at the time, and she discussed having about 17 brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And then she explained that her father had two wives and that these two women worked together to raise all of the kids. And this was in Barbados.
Mm.
And so, because I met her in Harlem, and I remember being 18 thinking, I wouldn't put up with that. And then at 35, am watching Sister Wives come on TV. I'm thinking to myself, I think I had this explained to me by someone who was born in the 1800s. So I think that was the beginning of me realizing that everybody doesn't do it the same. That family relationship and all of that,
Yeah.
it can be achieved more by respect than it needs to be a certain way.
Mm.
And so, when I decided to write it, I think it was s- a step away from what people expected. That was one reason why I did it. And then two, I ended up falling down a rabbit hole of just figuring out that, you that Georgia was carrying a law that both men and women were being locked up for being gay, and that law of 20 years did not change until like 1986.
Mm.
So you'd be surprised. And in my research, which I have one more book to write in that series, and the first book was supposed to be sweet. The second book was supposed to talk about the complications of love not looking the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third book will be gritty in that it is happening during the Lavender Scare of 1953,
Mm.
where Eisenhower signs an executive order to remove all gay people from working in government. So this
Mm.
is the beginning of gay people being hunted in society. So you fall into this by mistake, not on purpose. You're just
Yeah.
trying to tell a story, but when you're looking historically, and then of course being both gay and black, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you just you I just fell down a rabbit hole. So my last story in that book is going to be a bit
Mm.
grittier because the character is dealing with having lost his job for being black, for and trying to figure out how to be in a meaningful relationship because he's living in a society where he cannot be himself. So the third book is about a man who has passed for white and straight when he's really black and gay.
Mm.
So, um, that is where, and so I'm hoping that I can complicate the story enough for you to appreciate what it's like, not being able to be you
Mm,
and trying to be in love.
mm, damn, damn. Have you ever visited any of those places that you write about?
Oh, definitely. So Alex and Michael's story in Sweet Honesty is Corona, New York. I grew up there. And
Mm,
what I do to cheat a little bit, so that I can concentrate on the time, I pick places that I've grown up and just go back 50 years, 100 years, so that the topography is the same and I can actually speak to it as they're walking down the street. And it just may not be the time I grew up in.
damn. You are so dope.
Thank you.
You are so
Making me
dope.
smile.
Okay. Um, can you your characters are just really, there's emotional balance to their love lives, their situations, their family life. Why is it important to showcase such emotional trauma, happiness, um just all of it, all the above in all situations, even especially in love? Why is it important to show that with Black love?
So that we can. So, number one, let me say that I am going to be 57 this year. So, I didn't even really start writing until I was 45. Like, I was nervous. So, when I look at the young women writing today and telling Black story, when I was growing up, if I wanted to read romance, it was white books.
Mm,
So I am so proud of the young women who are telling stories today, who are telling sexy stories, who are telling funny stories, who are telling stories about grandma, grandpa, just all of it. I'm proud. When I decide to write, I'm hoping to right black family, black situation, black love, black orgasm, black children, all of it. I'm hoping
mm,
to write it so that you can relate and be like, that's just like my Uncle Charlie. I'm
mhm.
hoping that the characters will feel like family members always. Um, and so in telling the stories, I try to keep the conditions real, and if I don't use a real historical figure, then I try to look at the historical figures and then create characters that are like them, so that the conditions can be even more real. So it has to be important, because that is how you walk away from a situation where you don't think if you read the Black series that you're just going to get gone with the wind.
Oh, Jesus. Yes, my mind is blown. See, usually I'm not like this. I'm just, you just dropping hella knowledge on me, and it's just like blowing my mind. It's only been like three authors that ever had me stumped. So, is
It's
there?
so sweet.
I'm just saying, is there like a particular scene or moment in your work that was especially challenging or rewarding to you?
One scene in particular in book two is when Elbert is having a conversation by the tree with the man that he is about to lynch,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he is a slave catcher, and he's saying all the things that Black people think, and
Mm-hmm.
that was a hard moment, and it was a great moment to write. It was freeing.
Mm-hmm.
I
Wow.
have to say, when I began writing historical, and I read all books, I read white books, black books, I read them all, especially romance, right? So if it's a good romance, I will read it. It doesn't matter. But what I will say is, in writing, as I'm writing the Black series, I felt with every book, I felt blacker.
Mm, mm,
And I think that was important for me,
mm.
because
That's a fucking
as I
blast.
as I was writing the series, I realized that I was not really educated about being Black in this country, about history, about what accomplishments we made, inventions we made. I was not a person that really understood these things, and I had white readers say to me, "Shit, I wasn't educated either."
Mm,
So I think that was, like I've said it before. I don't think you can make America great if you're gonna keep lying about history.
man, you was, god damn. Oh my god, that was a fucking word, man. You got me over here sweating. Um, I, god damn, I don't even know what the. Yo, I usually have a 10,000 list question in my head. Like I don't write down my questions. They're literally rolling off my head, but I'm just sitting here like blown because I'm absorbing everything that you're saying.
Right,
And like I said, it's making me want to go back and read all your books from a different
right,
lens, because
right.
I read it from a reader that was reading historical fiction. Now it's like I'm now like, oh, I need to reread it because I'm looking at it from a different lens. This shit. Fuck. Oh my god. All right. So saying that, you said you started writing like 45.
Yes, when I started actually deciding to actually write and consistently write, I was 45.
So let me ask you this: what do you feel? What advice would you give to an older woman who's in her 30s or in her 40s or even in her 50s that said, you know what, I want to put pen to paper and I can do this, but I have doubts because I'm older.
Well, one of the things about writing, if you're older, this is the profession to be in, because the older you get, the more you understand life, the better it is that you can actually write about things because you've experienced. This is a profession that as you get older, you become better,
Mhm.
hopefully, and your writing will reflect that because you've lived a little bit and it will come across in the writing. So I would say at 45, when I decided to do it, I think I had a better grasp, and more importantly, I had a grasp on that I really didn't understand what it meant to be black in this country. I understood what white people meant for me to understand to be black in this country. So I think that was one of the things. Um, and I think if you're going to do it, you have to consistently. What I realized is, in order to say I was a writer,
Mhm.
you can't really say you're something unless you're doing it every day. And that's what I
Mhm.
realized, that I was not practicing it every day. And so, therefore, I was a person who wanted to write but wasn't. And got once I got a regimen together for writing, I think it made the difference in who I was. And so I think that the if you're in your 30s, well, you're young, and if you're in your 40s and 50s, you should have lived a little bit so that you when you write a good story, you can actually speak to
Yeah.
it. And I
Damn.
would say that I would say this: if you're struggling to figure out what you want to write, the best thing to do is to look at the things that you like and then look at the period that those things were best in and write it in those times.
I think I think me as a reader, I can't speak for all readers, and I can't speak for everybody that does a podcast. Y'all, I usually do this on TikTok, so this probably be the last time y'all see me on Instagram doing this. But me as a reader and me as a podcaster, on the podcaster level, it is amazing for me to hear y'all speak about your stories and your life experiences, because it brings such nuance and so much characters. They bring the characters to life,
Right,
really, even though they're fiction, and the situations have more depth,
right,
because the way I'm listening to you talk about your stories, the way you're talking about how your characters are and where everything came from, it brings more depth to the story that was already amazing,
wow.
you know.
Hmm.
And as a reader, it's just, I'm in awe because you're always in awe of authors because that's a skill set. That is a skill set that a
Right.
lot of people cannot do. At least, I mean, everybody can write, but can they write well? You
Right.
know,
I got you.
so when we see you guys write these stories and we read them and we love them so fucking much because they
Hmm.
actually do have an impact on our lives.
Right.
Because even though it's fiction, it has realism. I know a lot of people don't like me saying that, but this is my shit, so you can kiss my ass. I but a lot of fiction has realism and it really touches us because we know somebody that knows somebody or have a family member that's been through some of those situations. Now, is it elaborated a lot? Yes, but the situations are still the same.
Right.
And and the fact that y'all write around about black black people in general across the
Right.
board.
Right.
Y'all write about black people, especially black women, and being loved
Right.
accordingly. That right there sets the bar higher. I read white authors, I read POC authors, and I read black authors. But it is something about a black author that puts a flavor on the same genre differently from a white author.
Right.
And
I
that's
think, and I think that's going to be important. Yeah,
mm,
that is definitely true. Like I told you, I've read stories, and the stories overlap. And I've read one by a white author that was good,
mhm,
and one by a black author that was just as good.
mhm,
Because I could relate,
mhm,
right? And so I think when I'm writing, and black women are my muse. When
mhm,
I write with them in mind. I write
mhm,
with the understanding that black women want to be in love with the characters.
mhm,
And I think I threw people off when I wrote about Alex and Michael from Sweet Honesty, the gay romance. I think I threw people off, but I think once you get past all, and mind you, it's your hang up, then
mhm.
you get to love these two characters too.
But see, a lot of people that have a hang up about queer romance or anything that's dealing with a black man and a black man being in love, they don't understand that's still black love.
Right.
They don't. They're so see. They take to another level. They be thinking about bucking from back in the day, and assuming that's a part of because some people have their head
Well,
like that. They
also they're thinking about down low, and
yeah,
so all of it is not down low. So yes, but you're going to find that monogamy can be a bit of a joke sometimes. So
but
there
that's
it is. Yeah.
everywhere. There
Yeah.
is white men who are down low. There
Right.
are Latino men who are down low. That it didn't stop with black people.
Right. And
You know.
so I think that with the situation, I think when you come across, and that's probably why I opened the book like that, salacious enough for you to think that this was a down low story, but it's not.
It's
It's just the
not.
person. It's just the person who um, was afraid for their life.
And they have to think of the time. People are thinking about the sexual identity instead of the time that they are in. A lot of the stuff in the Black Renaissance era in Harlem, the Cotton Club, and all that stuff, they had parties that were strictly for the queer community. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
that's actually correct. During the Harlem Renaissance, and like I told you, it wasn't until later that I figured out that Langston Hughes was gay. You
yes,
know,
oh
yeah.
yes.
So you're being left out. One of the things in writing this series, I came across several things because I was studying the music of the time, which was Duke Ellington,
Hmm.
and I found out that Duke Ellington, most of his music was written by a gay man, Billy Strayhorn,
Hmm.
and it was presented as Duke Ellington's work because people would not accept it from Billy Strayhorn because he was gay and he was living openly gay. So these are things I did not know. I did
Hmm.
not know that the March on Washington, that Martin Luther King was not the person who organized this, that Bear Ruskin was, and
Hmm.
that he was gay, and they tried not to discuss that he was the person that put this together because he didn't want to ruin it. And a lot of people don't know that during his time of riding around with Martin Luther King, a lot of times he rode in the trunk of the car so that he would not cause people to talk about Dr. King. So, I mean, the contribution of LGBTQ has always been there,
Mm.
and I would think that a person would that sexuality is such a small part of who you are in the scheme of things that there's just so much more to you as a person that I would think that we as black people have bigger issues than to be concerned with who a person is falling in love. Because, I mean, we still in dire straits in this country.
And
And
that's fact.
every damn hand is needed.
And that's facts. And that's facts. That's why I need you to continue writing the books that you write. That's why I need you to continue to write these books, because there is lessons learned in every fucking story. And listening to you talk, some of the people that's on here can go back and read your books and learn a couple of more things. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I'm just saying, what has been the most rewarding thing about writing historical fiction, writing your series, and becoming an author?
Well, I think the most rewarding thing is having people. When you write a story, a book, the story is flat
Mm-hmm.
until other people add their magic to it. Read it, experience it, love it, not love it.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I think the most rewarding part of writing is telling Black experiences
Mm-hmm.
and having people appreciate those experiences
Mm-hmm.
and and having people come to my inbox and go, okay, let me tell you about my uncle who was born 1910.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people come when I wrote Sweet Honesty, the number of people that came forward and said my favorite cousin, my brother, my sister is gay or a lesbian, and they were the sweetest person. I always loved them, and this story made me feel good. Several of the people were much older, in their 70s. And one lady said, listen, I have a brother that passed away, and he was always just a wonderful person. This story reminded me of him.
Mm-hmm. I love that. How does it feel to have such an impact?
You never, you don't think it's an impact until people approach you with it.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, you're like, dang, it feels good. It feels good because I'm hoping to, when I tell stories, whether they're LGBTQ or not, that you understand that I'm a romance
Mm-hmm.
writer. And it won't matter whether the couple is same sex or not. Romance is
So it
romance.
is.
Yeah,
It fucking is.
yeah.
People just need to get out their heads. Um, how do you handle the feedback from people who, and I'm not gonna say know-it-alls, but people who are very knowledgeable about history? And how do you feel about the feedback that they may give you about the time period you're writing on?
I don't get that a lot.
Mm,
I don't get that really at all. I didn't know that.
mm,
Did you know this? And they add more facts to what I know,
mm-hmm,
and it helps me research and starts me to. But I don't get that. I think I had one person who said to me, who said they gave me a 4, and they said it was because they thought I was a man writing this, and they were disappointed that I was a woman, so they gave me a 4 for writing black. Yeah, I think
I know you
got.
fucking lying.
I think I got that more than this is not real history. I don't normally get that, but I did. I have gotten. I thought you were a man writing under a woman's name, and then when I saw you were a woman, I gave you a 4. Yeah, so
In the
I have got. I have gotten that.
Are you fucking for? Wow.
I do
Wow.
get that. Yeah, I've gotten that. And let me see. Do I get? Sometimes I get smart comments um, from men who probably don't like that I write because most of my main characters are men,
Hmm.
and like I said, I write for the enjoyment of women, and I write because I believe I think black men are beautiful, whether
Hmm.
they're in love with each other or women. I
Hmm.
think black men are beautiful. So they usually are my main character and everything spins around them. So every now and again, I did get a compliment from a young man who was gay and who contacted me and he said, if I didn't know you, I would have thought that this book was written by a gay man. And so that was kind of a compliment.
That
Because it
compliment.
was it was a lot of research. It was, so I do get that. And I had another young man come on my Facebook page and he said, when is the third book for the Sweet series coming out? I said, it's coming, but baby, I just did these two books. So he was wonderful. It was nice having him uh, to comment on my page. But, I get dinged. I get people who.
Oh,
I get people who say I got a review that said I hope this author is not going to start writing same sex because I don't want to read that. I get those things, and so when I got that review, I put out another damn book because you're not the boss of me.
I heard that shit. You heard that, man. Um. So, damn. So what you had mentioned when the third book is coming out? I just
So the
it
third
just
book will probably be out toward the end of the
okay.
year because I'm working on two books now.
Okay. 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 Now, what time period besides the time period you said the 60s that you're gonna go
So
into the 60s? What other time period do you think are you gonna go into the crack epidemic in the 80s?
I grew up in Queens, New York. So yeah, when Queens was on fire with crack, I could, but I wanted to step back in the '60s because I have a lot of people in my family that ended up on heroin.
Mm.
So I thought that was I think it's fitting. You
It
know,
is, especially
I
with
think it's
Vietnam
fitting
War.
because I yes, and I also think it's fitting because I don't think that people realize that when you step away from the crack epidemic and the epidemic that's happening in the black community, where it's being policed as if this doesn't happen anywhere else,
Mm.
I think that it's important for you to understand that there is always a target on young black youth to get them pulled in to drugs. And so I grew up during the crack epidemic, but I am also the recipient of the heroin epidemic.
Mm.
So just watching family members drop off,
Yeah.
walking around like zombies. So,
See,
um,
I grew up in the crack epidemic.
right, right, right. And you know, I had a slew of uncles that just yeah,
Yeah.
they were older and they came from the '60s. So the epidemic then was heroin. So I would like to move it forward and tell you a little bit of a story about then. I think I've actually worked the story out in my head. So it's probably just a matter of typing it out.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm in the throes of trying to promote my book that's coming up on Audible because Sweet Honesty is on Audible right now for pre-order, and it will go live on the 2nd of February. So it's
Who
been on
who
it's
who's the
pre-order.
who's the
Sean
narrator?
Chris, Sean Krisden, and Tree Taylor.
You know, I interview him next month.
You know he is absolutely wonderful,
He
right?
is absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, he is. And guess what? Not only not only is he gorgeous, but his personality is gorgeous. He is just a wonderful person, and he did the work. He and Tree Taylor did Sweet Honesty, and they did a fabulous job. The book is up for pre-order, and it's been up for about a week, and it will go live on the 2nd of February. And I am so thankful to Sean Frisden for taking on the project and doing such a wonderful job, he and Tree Taylor.
I need to find my planner because I think I have him February 3rd. So he is right after your release. I'll be interviewing him on TikTok. Oh
Yes,
my God. I
yes.
got to make sure I got to listen to it on February 2nd. So I can interview him on February 3rd. But
Yeah.
yeah, I want his voice.
He is wonderful. And I had the pleasure of speaking with him over the phone to just kind of talk with him about how wonderful the book is. What a fabulous person he is.
Mm,
What you see is what you get. And so
right.
I'm so thankful for that. And
Yeah.
I've worked with some great narrators over the time with getting my work done. Jacoby, Wesley, Nicole Small. Just I've had great experience with getting work done that people just really enjoy. And I've added him to that list, and I was so thankful to get him. And I probably have about 20 of Sean's books over the years, even before I knew that he would be working with me. So I was already a big fan of his, and he just got me. I'm a puddle. I'm just.
He
Whew,
his
I'm in
voice that
shambles over him. I really am.
his voice that Cowboy had, the uh Jesus. You know, it's two other narrators that want to work with you. Miles Washington and D. Lewis. No, they want to work with you
You
too.
know what? I heard that. I was so doggone flattered. I was walking around here like a peacock. It's a hot mess. It was a hot mess. You could not tell me nothing. I was strutting. My daughter said, "Listen, it's your day to take out the trash. I don't care really who wants to work with you." And I'm standing around talking crap. So you know what they said about. And my daughter was she rolling her eyes. Okay, yeah. So that just really made my day.
I mean, I almost called you Miss Vessel. You told me not to do that. But
Joan is fine.
Joan, oh my God. So your books are so fucking phenomenal. You
Thank
know what I'm
you.
saying? And it will take a really good narrator to
Yes.
bring life to those characters because they're so passionate. There's so much stuff going on in those books that person has to bring life to those characters with some passion.
Yes. Yes. Let me tell you something. When Sean uh sent me the files,
Hmm.
my grandchildren were here. And me and my
Hmm.
daughter running in and out of the room trying to close them out so we could listen and then run back out and then come back in and then run back out. So he just really made my day. He really did.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the question because if I see one more person ask, is unfortunately Francine gonna get a second book?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
do you?
Unfortunately, Francine is getting a second book. I'm actually working on a novella that is part of that for Alex. Should be up soon. Um, and then probably in the next 6 months that will come up on Audible. But I am also working on. I have a novel, a novella that I'm doing now. I'm working on that now. My editors has already started editing it, and then I have two more novels. But we will do book two this year, and there will also be a book two to Ignite. So those are my two things: the novella and those two books for this year.
So let me ask you this: if you could make any of your stories into a uh, movie, web series, what would it be? Which book would it be, or which series would it be?
Um, I think it would be unfortunately Francine,
Why?
because I think that um the book speaks to a lot of things that are going on today while being a dark romance.
Mm,
And so I think that would be fun for the readers.
mm. Y'all gonna be sick of me because in February I'm doing all her books and it's going to be review after review of Joan Vassar. So if you have not read her books, I advise you to read them now because I'm going to spoiler all this shit. I was gonna do it this month, but I said no, I'm gonna wait till Black History Month and I'm gonna do all her books.
I appreciate that. I really do.
Hey, I when I say I'm a fan wholeheartedly. Like Sweet Honesty, yes, that is that's my series.
I
That
appreciate
one,
that.
anybody that sees something wrong in that series, I hope you stub your toe on a Lego. I I love that fucking series. You really broke the hell out of that. So I can see why a man who is queer would be like, oh, that that had to be a man that wrote that because it was that damn good. It
I
was that damn
appreciate
good.
it.
The poly aspect was that damn good. You know what I'm saying? So I just, oh, ma'am, I just love you. I
Thank you.
just love you. Um, I know I just asked you about the movie aspect of it, right?
Hmm.
So there is a company of an author and her partner.
Hmm.
They're Rowdy Gunshot Film Productions. They are making indie books into movies.
Oh, okay.
They're on here. I'll text you the information, but they are not charging the authors. They're making your books into movies. So
Okay.
so what was that? Y'all wait until she read the rest of the catalog storm. You're about to be in a few chokeholds. But and I also wanted to ask you, what book tours are you going to be on, or are you going on any book tours, or are you going to be outside this year?
Yes, I will be at the house party in Charlotte with Alexandria House in, I want to say it's July. But I normally, because I have so much writing to do, that will probably be the only event that I'll be doing. And then I probably will look at something next year, but I really try to only do one event a year because it stunts me trying to write. It's like a lot of pick up and go. So yeah, I'm trying to figure it out, but as of right now, the only thing I'm doing is the house party with Alexandria
Can
House.
I put myself and my partner's book tour in the hat? We have a tour called the Boozy Book Tour. It's a small, intimate event for Black and POC authors. We travel around the whole country. This year is going to be Raleigh, Arlington, Virginia, um, Orlando, Florida, Chicago. And in 2026, we're having the Melanin Ball. This year, we're having the Melanin Ball in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Black Wall Street. Next year, it's going to be in Las Vegas. And it's like ode to Black history. And it's going to be ode to school days and house party. So I would love, 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 love
So how many
if you
days is this?
we go to different cities. So each city has a different month that we're doing.
Oh,
So
so you only
it's
when you're in that city, you're only in that city for the day.
for like 3 days. Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay,
because we'll have like a mix and mingle. Like we did Houston in December. We had a mix and mingle at a bookstore, Black owned bookstore, where the readers can come in and drink and get to talk to the authors in person. Then we have a ticket event, which is the book signing, the dinner, where the readers get to eat dinner with the authors. They get to go to the book signing, they get swag, photo booth, all that stuff. And then the next day it's like a brunch.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And when is this next year?
This year, well, the one since you're only doing one a year, next year will be Las Vegas.
Okay, let me think about it. And because I got your phone number, so I'll just text you. You already know that, yeah.
But I would love to see you at one of the events, and plus, you know, I just want to buy all your books in person. I just want to buy all your
I
books in person.
appreciate it.
That's all I'm saying. But I'm not gonna keep you too much longer, but I just want to say I appreciate you so much because you bring awareness to the Black culture on some real Black culture type thing. Your writing is just impeccable. Like
Thank
it
you.
can bring emotions out of the hardest person, and I'm a hard bitch. So you can bring emotion out of the hardest person. Your energy is just, it just makes you want to smile even when you don't want to smile, and your knowledge is just something where me as a Black woman, I just want to pick your brain every damn day about historical facts that I didn't even know. So I just want to say thank you for even jumping in the pool to write.
Well, I appreciate all the support that the readers, you, I appreciate setups like this where we get to come out and talk about our work. I think it's all essential. It's a relevant type of thing where you have the podcasters and the book reviewers and all of that. And I so appreciate it. And just as a parting shot, remember to go get Sweet Honesty with Sean Krisden and Tree Taylor. I appreciate all the support, and Sean is wonderful. And when y'all get out here, don't forget to text me so I could get in the audience and smile when Sean comes on here.
Sean, Sean is he's gonna be on TikTok. I ain't now the TikTok back. Y'all,
Okay,
my podcast is back on TikTok. I'm
okay.
not gonna. I look, all y'all girlies that like Instagram and do y'all stuff on Instagram. Bless your heart and your ministry. This is just not for me. So
I'll be
I
over
will
on
be.
TikTok,
I
TikTok, watching y'all.
I'll be on TikTok. So my other interviews this month will be back on TikTok.
All right.
But once again, I appreciate you so much, and I am going to text you about Roddy Gunshy
Okay,
production. And but let me know
I
if you
will.
want to do the tour, and even if you don't, let me know what cities you're gonna be at so I can be there.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I appreciate everybody.